There's one thing no one ever tells you before you step into this industry. Once you're in, you're never really out. They say it's just a job, that it's empowering, that it's easy money. That's the lie they sell you. That's the illusion I believed. I wasn't naive. At least, I didn't think I was. I told myself I was in control, that I was making my own choices. No one forced me into it. No one put a gun to my head. But looking back, I see it differently now. I see how the system is designed to lure girls in, to make it seem like a golden ticket, fast cash, glamour, attention. And by the time you realize the cost, you're already too deep. I remember my first shoot. I thought I knew what to expect. I had watched the videos. I had done my research. I told myself it's just a performance, just acting. But nothing could have prepared me for the way they looked at me. Not like a person, not even like an actress, but like a product. Like something they had paid for, and now they could do whatever they wanted with. The moment I walked onto that set, I felt it. That quiet shift in the air. The way the crew barely acknowledged me, except to give directions. The way the guy they paired me with didn't even introduce himself properly, just nodded like I was another prop. It was clinical, mechanical. No one asked if I was okay. No one cared. I told myself it was fine. That this was normal. That I just needed to get through it. But something inside me felt off, like I had just stepped into something much heavier than I had signed up for. And then, when it was over, when I was sitting in the back room, still trying to process what had just happened, someone handed me an envelope. My payment. Cash. No conversation. No thanks. Just the money and the door. I should have walked away right then. I should have listened to that voice in my head telling me this wasn't right. But here's the thing, once you start, they make it so easy to keep going. They tell you that you did great. That you're a natural. That the next shoot will be even better. That there's more money waiting for you if you just push a little further. And that's how it happens. Step by step. Line by line in the contract. A little more each time. Until one day, you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself anymore. At first, you justify it. You tell yourself it's just a phase. That you're in control. That you can stop whenever you want. But then you start realizing things, the way the rates suddenly drop, the way agents stop answering your calls if you don't agree to certain things, the way your name starts circulating in places you never wanted it to be. And the worst part? No one warns you about how the industry treats you once they're done with you. Once you're no longer new, no longer a fresh face. You're disposable. Replaceable. There's always another girl waiting, younger, more naive, more willing. They push you further and further, and if you refuse, if you say no, suddenly the work dries up. Suddenly you're difficult. And in this industry, once you're labeled as difficult, you're done. I wish I could say I got out clean. I wish I could say I took my money and walked away before it got bad. But that's not how this story goes. Because the truth is, no one walks away from this business without scars. Some of us just hide them better than others. This isn't the story they sell you. They show you the money, the parties, the fans. But they don't show you the moments after the cameras stop rolling. They don't show you the contracts you wish you never signed. They don't show you the way it feels when you realize your name, your face, your body, it doesn't belong to you anymore. I used to think this job was about power, about being in control of my own choices. Now I see it for what it really is, a trap. And once you're in, no one tells you how to escape. Before all of this, I was just a regular girl. I know that's what everyone says, but it's true. My life was simple, almost boring. I had a tiny apartment with second-hand furniture, a part-time job that barely paid my bills, and a routine that felt like it was going nowhere. Wake up, scroll through my phone, go to work, come home, repeat. I didn't have some tragic backstory. I wasn't running from anything. I had parents who loved me, maybe a little distant, maybe a little caught up in their own lives, but they were good people. I had friends, the kind who made plans and then flaked at the last minute, the kind you call when you're lonely but never really open up to. Nothing in my life was perfect, but nothing was unbearable either. I was just existing. I wanted more. Not in some grand, dramatic way. I didn't dream of being famous or changing the world. I just wanted to feel something. I was tired of struggling, tired of watching other people live the life I thought I deserved. I had always been the pretty one in my group. People told me I should model, that I had the right look, that I could make good money if I just put myself out there. I started taking pictures, playing around with my image, trying to capture whatever it was that made influencers so effortlessly beautiful. I didn't have the money for expensive clothes or professional shoots, but filters and angles could make up for that. At first, it was just fun. A game. I posted a few pictures, nothing too revealing, just enough to see if people would notice. And they did. The likes, the messages, the attention, it was addicting. I felt seen for the first time in my life. And then came the offers. At first, they were small, DMs from random guys asking for exclusive photos, comments telling me I could make serious money if I was willing to be a little bolder. I ignored them at first, laughed them off. But then I started seeing the numbers. Girls who weren't that different from me making thousands just by posting online. It seemed easy, harmless. A way to finally take control of my own life. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. That it wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. And when I finally responded to one of those messages, when I actually considered it, I told myself it was just an experiment. That's how it starts. It's never one big decision. It's never a moment where you sit down and say, this is what I'm going to do with my life. It's little steps. Tiny choices that don't feel like choices at all. The first time I agreed to a private photo shoot, I was nervous. But the guy seemed professional. He had a website, references, even a contract. It felt legitimate. Safe. The shoot was in a hotel room, but it was high-end, clean. Nothing sketchy. He paid me in cash before we even started. I told myself that meant I was in control. I remember standing in front of the mirror afterward, counting the money. It was more than I had made in a month at my regular job. It felt unreal. I told myself this was just temporary, just a way to save up, to get ahead. But the thing about easy money is that it never feels like enough. I started meeting more people. Agents, producers, men who promised they could take me to the next level. They said I had potential, that I could be a star if I played my cards right. They were smooth, experienced. They knew exactly what to say, how to make you feel special. And I wanted to believe them. I wasn't stupid, I knew what industry they were talking about. But the way they sold it made it sound different. Classy, professional, almost glamorous. They said it wasn't like how people imagined. That the girls made their own rules, set their own boundaries. That I'd have full control. I let myself believe them. I remember the first time I signed a contract. It was thick, full of legal terms I didn't bother reading. I should have known better. But in that moment, all I saw was the paycheck. All I heard were their reassurances. And I thought, how bad could it really be? The first time I felt that something was off, I ignored it. I told myself I was just overthinking, that I was being paranoid. It was easier that way. I had just done my first real scene. Not a photo shoot, not something I could control with angles and lighting, but a full production with a director, a crew, and cameras everywhere. I was nervous, but the producer reassured me, told me I was special, that I had the look people wanted, that I was going to do great. I wanted to believe that. The set was in a rented house in the hills, big and expensive looking, but empty. Just a shell of a place, staged to look good on camera. The kind of house that felt lived in for a few hours and then abandoned again once the crew packed up and left. The first thing that felt wrong was how fast everything moved. No one really talked to me. No one asked if I was okay. They handed me a paper to sign. Basic legal stuff, they said, and before I even had time to skim through it, a woman in too much makeup was pushing a pen into my hand, telling me to hurry up. I signed it. Because what else was I supposed to do? Say no and walk away? I had already taken the check. I had already said yes. The second thing that felt wrong was the guy they paired me with. He barely spoke to me. He looked past me when he talked, like I wasn't even there. When the cameras started rolling, he didn't wait for direction. He just did what he was supposed to do, and I had to keep up. I was too nervous to stop and say anything, too afraid I'd ruin the take, that I'd look unprofessional. After it was over, I sat in the bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. My makeup was smudged. My hair was a mess. I felt off. Like something had been taken from me, but I couldn't quite name what. And then I heard them talking about me in the other room. I wasn't supposed to hear it. They probably thought I had already left. But the bathroom door was thin, and their voices carried. She'll get used to it. Yeah, they all say they're fine after the first one. She'll break in fast. And then laughter. I don't know why it made my stomach turn the way it did. Maybe it was the way they said it, the casual tone, like they were talking about breaking in a new pair of shoes instead of a person. I should have left then. I should have listened to that instinct, that sick feeling in my gut. But I didn't. Because when I walked back into the room, they were smiling at me, handing me my payment, telling me I did a great job. The producer put his hand on my shoulder, squeezed just a little too hard. You're gonna be a star. And I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the unease I felt was just nerves, just my mind playing tricks on me. So I took the money. And I told myself it was fine. It wasn't. I kept telling myself it was just nerves. That the industry was different, sure, but that didn't mean something was wrong. I wasn't new anymore. I had done a few shoots, met more people, learned how things worked. I had money in my pocket, real money, more than I had ever made before. That should have been enough to quiet the doubts in my head. But it wasn't. The little things started piling up. Like how my agent stopped calling me by my real name. How, after a while, I stopped correcting him. Like how every shoot started feeling rushed, contracts pushed into my hands right before cameras rolled, no time to ask questions. Like how some of the girls I met, the ones who had been in the industry longer than me, had this empty look in their eyes. Not sadness, not exhaustion. Just nothing. One of them, a girl I'll call Lacey, pulled me aside after a shoot one day. I had only seen her a couple of times before, but she was one of the big names, the kind of girl I had looked up when I was first considering all of this. She had been in the business for years. "You good?" she asked, lighting a cigarette. "Yeah. Why?" She took a long drag, watching me in this way that made my skin prickle. "You don't look good." I laughed it off. "I'm fine." She nodded, exhaling smoke. "Sure. You'll tell yourself that for a while." She didn't say anything else after that. Just dropped the cigarette, crushed it under her heel, and walked off. I should have asked her what she meant. I should have pressed her for answers. But I didn't. Because I already knew, deep down. The next week, I got a call about a new shoot. Bigger budget, higher pay. They wanted me specifically. I should have been excited. This was what I had been working toward, right? But when I asked my agent for details, he was vague. "Just show up," he said. "They'll take care of you." That sick feeling in my gut came back. When I arrived, the place wasn't like the other sets I had been on. It wasn't some fancy house in the hills, wasn't a well-lit studio. It was an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that didn't feel like it should still be standing. The second I walked in, I knew something was off. The crew was different. Not the usual faces I had started recognizing. The men were rougher, their stares lingering too long. The air was thick with something unspoken, a kind of tension that made my skin crawl. I looked for the director, the guy who was supposed to be in charge, but when I asked for him, one of the crew members just laughed. "He'll be here soon," he said. "Relax." I couldn't relax. I found a bathroom, locked the door, and tried to breathe. My hands were shaking, my stomach twisting itself into knots. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my messages. I thought about calling my agent, asking him what the heck this was. But I already knew what he'd say. "It's fine. You're overthinking it. Just go with the flow." But it wasn't fine. I wasn't overthinking. I checked the contract they had given me. It was different. Shorter. Less details. And at the bottom, something that made my throat tighten. A small note that read, "Compensation negotiable based on performance." That wasn't normal. That wasn't how this worked. The knock on the door made me jump. "You ready?" A voice called from the other side. Not a voice I recognized. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my lips pressed into a tight line. I had two choices: walk out and do the job, or walk away and risk everything, my reputation, my money, my so-called career. I had never felt so trapped. And that's when I realized I wasn't in control anymore. I should have walked away. I should have grabbed my bag, pushed past whoever was outside that door, and never looked back. But I didn't. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I was letting my nerves get to me. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and stepped out. The moment I did, I knew I had made a mistake. The lights were dimmer than usual. The crew barely acknowledged me, their eyes scanning over me like I wasn't even a person, just a body they were about to use. There was no small talk, no fake kindness. The air was thick, heavy with something unspoken. I looked around for the director. Still not there. A man I had never seen before handed me a new contract, thicker than the others. The print was smaller, more legal jargon, pages and pages of fine print. "Standard agreement," he said. "Just sign it." Something about his voice made my stomach turn. Flat, indifferent. I flipped through the pages, trying to find the usual payment details. They weren't there. Instead, I saw a clause that made my hands go cold. All footage and images remain the exclusive property of the production company in perpetuity, with no rights of removal or compensation beyond initial payment. In perpetuity. Forever. Even if I walked away. Even if I begged them to take it down. Even if my life was destroyed because of it. I looked up, my throat dry. "Where's my rate?" The man smirked. "We'll discuss that after." After. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears. That wasn't how this worked. Payment was always agreed upon beforehand, always clear, always upfront. That was the one thing I had learned. Once the contract was signed, there were no takebacks, no second chances. I was about to say something, about to push the contract back into his hands and tell him I wasn't doing this, when I heard something. A girl's voice. Muffled. Strained. It was coming from behind a door at the far end of the warehouse. I froze. It wasn't the usual chatter of the crew. It wasn't someone giving directions. It was someone crying. The man in front of me must have noticed the way I tensed, because he let out a low chuckle. "She'll be fine." I turned to him. "What?" He shrugged. Some of them freak out the first time. They get over it. My skin went ice cold. Some of them. I stared at him, my mind racing. The crying behind the door wasn't stopping. It was getting worse. I had spent months in this industry, convincing myself that I was different. That I was smart, that I had control, that I knew what I was doing. That if anything ever felt wrong, I could just walk away. But now, standing there, looking at the contract in my hands, hearing the quiet, shaking sobs from behind that door, I realized the truth. I wasn't in control. I never had been. My breath came fast and shallow. I looked down at the paper again, at the ink waiting for my signature. This wasn't a job. This wasn't acting. This was something else. Something darker. Something I hadn't let myself see until now. I looked up at the man in front of me, at the way he was watching me. He wasn't worried. He wasn't nervous. Because he knew exactly what was happening here. And he knew I wasn't going to stop it. For the first time since I started all of this, real fear settled into my bones. Because now I understood, this wasn't just a business. This was a machine. And once you stepped too far inside, it didn't let you leave. I should have left. Right then, right there. I should have turned around and walked out of that warehouse. But I didn't. Because I was afraid. And fear does something to you. It paralyzes you, makes you second-guess yourself, makes you hesitate just long enough for the worst to happen. The man was still staring at me, waiting. The contract in my hands felt heavier than it should have. My mouth was dry, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I could still hear the girl behind that door. I could still hear the way she was trying to hold back her sobs. And then the door opened. She stumbled out, barefoot, wrapped in nothing but a thin robe. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes red, her body shaking. She didn't even look at me, just at the floor, at her hands, at anything but the people in that room. One of the crew members grabbed her arm and muttered something low, something I couldn't hear. She flinched but didn't pull away. And that was when I knew this wasn't just a bad contract. This wasn't just another shoot. This was something else. I turned to the man again, my voice barely working. "I'm not doing this." For a second, he didn't react. Then he smiled, slow and knowing, like I had just said something amusing. "You're already here." I took a step back. "I don't care. I'm not doing it." His smile didn't fade. He just looked past me, over my shoulder, and gave a small nod. And then I felt it, someone behind me. A hand wrapped around my arm, not hard, not violent, but firm enough to send a clear message. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. Panic shot through me like ice water. I yanked my arm away, spinning around, but the grip tightened. I saw another man now, bigger, broader, standing too close. I hadn't even noticed him before, hadn't realized he was there. I looked back at the first man, my breathing ragged. "Let go of me," he sighed, shaking his head. "You signed up for this. You knew what this was." "No, I didn't." My voice was shaking now. This isn't what I agreed to." He took a slow step toward me. "You took the money. You signed the contracts. You knew the rules." I thought about the papers I had signed over the past few months, the ones I had barely read, the ones I had rushed through because I had trusted the people handing them to me. How many of them had clauses buried in the fine print? How many had tied me to things I hadn't even realized? I had let them lead me here, step by step. And now there was no easy way out. I tried to pull away from the man holding me, but his grip didn't budge. "I'll pay you back," I blurted out. "Whatever you gave me, I'll give it back." The first man laughed. "It's not about the money." His voice was calm, too calm. And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. These men weren't just businessmen. They weren't just producers. They were owners. Not of a company. Not of a brand. Of people. I wasn't talent to them. I wasn't an actress. I was a product. A name in a catalog. A face they had invested in. Something they had molded and marketed. And if I walked away now? If I made trouble? I wouldn't just lose my career. I would lose everything. I felt my pulse racing, my body frozen between fight and flight. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I knew if I did, things could get worse. Much worse. So I did the only thing I could. I forced myself to smile. A shaky, weak excuse for a smile, but enough to make them relax, just a little. I just need some time," I said. "To think." The first man tilted his head, watching me. "Think fast." The grip on my arm loosened, just enough for me to step back. I didn't wait. I turned, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the exit as calmly as I could, my legs threatening to give out with every step. No one stopped me. But as I reached the door, I heard his voice again, smooth and amused. "You'll be back." I didn't answer. I just stepped outside, into the cold air, and started walking. And I didn't look back. I don't remember how I got home that night. I must have taken a cab, must have walked up the stairs to my apartment, must have locked the door behind me. But it's all a blur. My body was moving on autopilot, my mind still trapped in that warehouse, in that room, in that moment. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, my heart still racing. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't look at it. I already knew who it was. "You'll be back." His voice echoed in my head, smooth and confident, like he had seen this happen 100 times before. Like he knew exactly how this would play out. Because he did. I wasn't the first girl to walk out that door, shaking, terrified, convincing herself she was done. And I wouldn't be the first to come crawling back. I grabbed my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. I had messages, some from my agent, some from a few other contacts in the industry, all variations of the same thing. "Where are you? You're making a mistake. They won't like this." I could feel it tightening around me, the invisible chain I hadn't noticed before. I thought I had been making my own choices. But the truth was, they had been guiding me here from the beginning. Every contract, every shoot, every subtle push toward, just a little more. And now, when I had finally realized what was happening, it was too late. Because they weren't letting me walk away. I scrolled through my messages until I found her name. Lacey, the girl who had warned me before. The girl who had seen it all. I hesitated for only a second before typing. What happens if I leave? The 3 dots appeared. Then they stopped. Then they came back. Then they stopped again. And finally, one message. They don't like it when girls disappear. My stomach clenched. I typed back. Disappear how? No response. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I stood up too fast, my legs unsteady. I felt sick. I grabbed my bag, my coat, anything I could reach, and shoved it into a suitcase. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to leave. I had to get out before they decided I was a problem. I had heard the stories before, the girls who suddenly left the industry, the ones who just stopped showing up. No one talked about them. No one asked where they went. If you were lucky, they let you go. If you weren't. I didn't want to find out. I was halfway to the door when my phone buzzed again. You're being dramatic. Let's talk. I froze. It wasn't from Lacey. It was from him. I stared at the message, my fingers going numb. They were watching. I turned off my phone, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out of my apartment without looking back. The city felt different that night. Every shadow stretched too long. Every footstep behind me made my skin crawl. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept walking, trying to breathe, trying to think. And then, across the street, I saw her. Lacey. She was standing under a streetlight, a cigarette burning between her fingers, but she wasn't smoking it. She was staring at me, waiting. I ran to her. Lacey, are you crazy? She hissed, grabbing my arm, pulling me into the alleyway behind her. I need help, I said. My voice sounded small, desperate. I want out. She shook her head. You don't just get out. I swallowed hard. Then what do I do? She studied me for a long time. Then she flicked her cigarette into the gutter and said the words that changed everything. You disappear first. Disappear first. Lacey's words echoed in my head as I sat in a motel room hours outside the city, staring at the flickering neon sign outside my window. I had left everything behind, my apartment, my clothes, even my phone. Lacey made me ditch it before we left, said it was too easy for them to track. She told me to keep my head down, to stay quiet, to wait. Wait for what? I wasn't sure. I didn't ask where she was taking me that night. I didn't ask how she knew so much. I just followed her, because she was the only one who seemed to understand how deep this went, how real the danger was. You think you're the first girl who wanted out, she had asked me when we stopped at a gas station, her voice low, cautious. You think they don't plan for this? I didn't answer, because I knew she was right. And now I was here, in this rundown motel, with a bag full of cash I hadn't touched, a prepaid flip phone with no contacts, and a sick feeling in my stomach that no amount of distance could shake. I had left. I had escaped. So why did it feel like I was still trapped? I thought about what I left behind, the contracts, the footage, my name plastered all over sites that never forget. You don't just disappear from this industry. Even if you physically walk away, pieces of you stay behind. Clips that will never be deleted. Images that will always resurface. Proof that you were there. They own you long after you leave. And then there was Lacey. She was supposed to meet me here. She had promised. But it had been almost 2 days now, and every time I called, it went straight to voicemail. I tried not to panic. Maybe she got caught up in something. Maybe she was being careful. Maybe she was on her way. Or maybe they got to her first. I checked the motel door again, making sure the latch was locked. The paranoia had settled into my bones now, making me flinch at every car passing outside, every footstep in the hallway. I turned on the TV, just to hear something other than my own thoughts. The news was on. A missing person report. At first, I wasn't paying attention. And then I saw her face. Lacey. I sat up so fast the remote fell from my hand. Her picture was old, before the industry got to her, before she had that empty look in her eyes, but it was her. The headline underneath made my stomach drop. Local woman reported missing, no leads. I grabbed my phone, dialed her number again. Straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking now. This wasn't a coincidence. I thought I was safe. I thought I had escaped. But now I understood. They weren't just letting me go. They were making an example. And I was next. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen, watching Lacey's picture flash across the news. It felt like the world had tilted, like I was watching something that wasn't real, that couldn't be real. But it was. She was gone. And I was next. I should have run. I should have grabbed my bag, left the motel, and kept moving. But instead, I sat there, frozen, my mind racing through every conversation we'd had, every warning she had tried to give me. She knew this would happen. She knew what they were capable of. And now, so did I. I thought about going to the police. I even picked up the motel phone, dialed the first few numbers before stopping myself. What was I going to say? That I signed contracts I didn't read? That I walked into this business willingly, took their money, played by their rules, and then suddenly decided I wanted out? That wasn't a crime. At least, not on paper. The law wouldn't protect me. It never protected girls like me. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe, but all I could hear was his voice. You'll be back. I used to think I was smart. That I knew the game, that I was the one making the choices. But the truth was, I had never been in control. I was a piece on their board, moved exactly where they wanted me to go. And now, when I had finally seen the truth, they were erasing me. Lacey was proof of that. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she ran, if she got caught, if she's buried in some place where no one will ever find her. All I know is that she's gone. And I'm still here. But for how long? I don't use my real name anymore. The girl I used to be doesn't exist. I keep moving, never staying in one place too long. I don't use credit cards, don't keep a phone for more than a few weeks. I learned how to disappear, the way Lacey tried to teach me. I thought escaping would be the hardest part. But it turns out living with it is worse. Because no matter how far I run, my past is always with me. My name, my face, the things I did, they're still out there on screens, on sites I can't erase. A permanent reminder of the girl I was, the choices I made. And I have to live with that. People think they understand this industry. They think it's glamorous, that it's a choice, that the girls are in control. But they don't see the contracts. They don't see the manipulation, the slow erosion of self-worth. They don't see what happens when the cameras stop rolling, when the industry decides you're no longer useful. They don't see the girls who disappear. I used to believe the lie. Now, I just hope I'm not the next one. I never thought I'd tell this story. For a long time, I wanted to pretend it never happened. That I was never that girl, that I never made those choices, that I never let myself believe in the lie. But I can't pretend anymore. Because somewhere out there, another girl is about to take her first step into this industry, thinking it's harmless, thinking it's easy, thinking she's in control. And I need her to know the truth. This industry doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your dreams, your boundaries, or your future. It cares about what it can take from you. And when it's done, when you're no longer valuable, it won't think twice about replacing you. I was lucky. I got out. But not everyone does. And even now, even after everything, I still wonder if I truly escaped. Because my name is still out there. My face. My past. You don't just erase something like this. You carry it with you. Every job application, every relationship, every time someone recognizes you in a place you thought was safe. It follows you. That's what no one tells you. I'm not saying this for sympathy. I don't need anyone to feel sorry for me. I made my choices. I live with them. But if my story can stop just one girl from making the same mistakes, then maybe it's worth telling. Maybe you're watching this and thinking, that could never happen to me. I used to think that too. Or maybe you've already been through something like this. Maybe you're carrying a past you don't talk about, a secret you think no one would understand. If that's you, I want you to know, you're not alone. There are people out there who will listen. People who won't judge. People who have been where you are. So talk to me. Talk to each other. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've ever felt trapped, if you've ever been promised something that turned out to be a lie. Because the more we talk about this, the harder it is for them to keep getting away with it. And maybe, just maybe, we can stop the next girl before it's too late.